And we're here with some wonderful people who are heading up Parkinson's charities in the UK at the moment. And it's lovely to see so many women's faces as well doing all this. So shall we all go round and introduce ourselves?
Sorry.
So Gaynor, do you want to go first and introduce yourself?
I would love to. My name's Gaynor Edwards. I run a charity called Spotlight YOPD. I have a dog who's being a nuisance. Get out, thank you. We launched 5 years ago, and as far as I'm aware, we're still officially at this moment in time the only charity dedicated to the needs of young onset. And being a woman with young onset, it's a particular interest of mine, obviously. And how I know you, Sarah, through it, because it does offer opportunity, and this is hopefully another opportunity. So we've got some of the women from the leading charities together to have a chat.
It's a good idea today. And Helen, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I'm Helen Matthews, Deputy CEO at the Cure Parkinson Trust, and I've been involved with the charity since 2005, which is when we came into being. The charity was set up by 4 people with Parkinson's who were determined to try and help change the research landscape and move towards finding a cure for Parkinson's. And that's been our mission ever since. We're a very small organisation, but we're very committed to funding clinical trials of potential drugs that could, with a bit of luck and a bit of hope and some great science, make a difference to people who are living with Parkinson's now.
Thank you, Helen. And Shan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you. Yes, I'm Shan Nicholas, and I'm the Interim Chief Executive of Parkinson's UK. And I've been with the charity for 7 weeks, I think it is. We provide advice and information to people with Parkinson's. We fund research and we undertake some policy and campaigning work as well. And we work right across the UK.
Thank you, Shan. And I'm Sarah Webb. I run a small charity or network, really, we call ourselves, in South London. It's called South London Younger Parkinson's Network. And we're really a chance for people with young onset to get together and compare notes, really. So welcome, everyone. And it's this day that we should be celebrating because it's International Women's Day. So let's start talking about it, shall we? Gaynor, do you want to go first? Is there anything you'd like to say in particular?
Yeah, I think traditionally, of course, we struggle being young women, you and I, Sarah, with, I'm still going to call us young.
I love it. I can be young today.
Struggle with being young women with Parkinson's from what is traditionally considered to be a disease of elderly men.
Yes, yeah.
And it's really easy to get pigeonholed as far as that's concerned. And I think why a lot of women have in the past struggled with getting a diagnosis. Because not only are we too young to have Parkinson's, we're also too female to have Parkinson's. Who knew? And that's, I think that it's really quite encouraging that, I think it's really quite encouraging and heartwarming that there is a move now. I think we are at a tipping point within the Parkinson's community, within the Parkinson's world, that people are beginning to wise up to the fact it's not just an old man's disease, and it's global. And the pandemic that we've been through, I think, has made a lot of people stop and think and consider that things come along, the world can change like that, and you have to readjust. Helen, take it on from here.
Yeah, I've been absolutely fascinated by the limited amount of research there has been around women and Parkinson's. The literature is not extensive. And, you know, there are some very good papers out there and some very helpful papers, but it's an under-researched area. And I do wonder, in terms of the opportunity, and forgive me for using the word opportunity, but I do on purpose, of exploring in more detail, particularly young onset women and some of the issues that they face with the hormones and the effects that hormones have on their medication, as to potentially whether that may then create a treatment target and ideally a disease-modifying treatment target that could actually benefit this small group of people. But actually, even though this is a small group of people, this would allow us to develop an orphan indication, a drug for an orphan indication, which means that we might be able to fast track a treatment through. Now, there's a lot that needs to now happen. Obviously, we need to understand the size of the problem that we're dealing with here, and by actually surveying and researching the young onset community in more detail, we'll have an idea of the number of people who are genuinely being affected by their hormones for at least 1 week of a year, and finding that their Parkinson's medication is ineffective for that 1 week of a year. And you can think of the knock-on effect on family life and on working life, on every aspect of living with Parkinson's for this particular group. But then more importantly, I think trying to understand whether we can do a drug screen and identify drugs that may potentially be of benefit for people, for young women living with Parkinson's.
Sorry, 1 week of a month. Yeah.
Did I say a year?
You said a year.
I think it's the year.
That's the period I want.
I was thinking I missed something.
Also, I was going so well too.
I know.
I think consideration there is pregnancy as well. Cause I think going through pregnancy with Parkinson's and the medication is something to consider as well.
Yes, and I suspect that Fox Insight has done a little bit of work on this in terms of pregnancy and also menopause, but they haven't done nearly enough in terms of the way that people are experiencing their monthly cycles and how that is really having an impact on their regular medication routine. But I do think that this is a treatment opportunity, both symptomatically but also as a disease modifier, partly because this is a small group and we would have an opportunity to develop and fast track treatments. It's just finding the treatments that would then work.
Yeah,
and I think I was going to say, I think that the there is, as Helen's highlighted, there's actually, there's very little research into women and Parkinson's. And whilst, yes, it's true that, that more men have the condition than women, a significant number of women nevertheless do have the condition at different ages. And certainly for women with young onset Parkinson's, there are all kinds of issues around kind of, sort of pregnancy, and the impact of Parkinson's on that, sort of right through to menopause and the implications for women as well as they get older with Parkinson's and how that impacts. I do think that that just sort of thinking back to kind of this sort of past year and COVID, one of the things that it has highlighted, I think, there are two things. I mean, one is that actually when you set your mind to it, how quickly you can go from nothing through to trial and then delivery of something, in this case a COVID vaccine, and just how quickly that can be done in fact, as opposed to taking the sort of the decades that very often these things do. And the other thing that I think that it's highlighted is as well as some of the kind of complexity of health conditions that people have, and it's given health the kind of oddly a sort of a profile in some respects and a better understanding in people's minds than I think perhaps it's had before.
And I completely agree. I mean, I think people now have a much better understanding of what a clinical trial entails, and what the regulatory process entails, and actually. Particularly looking at how the MHRA, the UK regulators of the Medicine, Health and Health Regulatory Authority, how they managed to fast track the vaccine approvals here in the UK, and then how other nations have been a little bit slower, and actually that general understanding of the clinical trial process and how drugs are developed and tested and developed and robustly tested and developed, and licenses are given on the back of that robust testing. It's been hugely helpful, I think, in terms of the research world.
It is, and also it's the international dimension in the sense as well, because I don't think that that generally people kind of ever saw the international collaboration that does in any case take place in terms of medical research. But given that Parkinson's is a global condition, again, it's kind of, it shone a light on the importance of international cooperation in relation to development of drug treatments and trials.
I think also people with Parkinson's realise they have to get involved now to do this research as well. And I think that's what we also all are saying just then, is that people have had to have their eyes opened up, seeing that if we all come together and we do research together, and look what's happened with the pandemic, you know, we found some vaccinations, and let's hope they can do that for Parkinson's, you know. It'd be brilliant, wouldn't it?
It's
If we all come
possibility
together.
and hope at last, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. Well, I think also that it's really important that people with Parkinson's are involved in all this research, and I think this has helped people realise that they have to get involved.
There was also, I mean, who would have thought that you would have seen on you know, the 6 o'clock news, T cells and you know, diagrams of this is what's going on, this is what the genetic happened, this is RNA, DNA, and people were drawn in with it. There was, you know, it was on normal telly, terrestrial telly, and people were paying attention, and that in itself has to surely help in some way.
Yeah,
I think that's absolutely right. And I think, you know, going back to where we started with this conversation around young women with Parkinson's, you know, I think for me, the first step is we've absolutely got to get a group of young women with Parkinson's involved in research by surveying them, because that is also research, to understand the issues that they are facing, that, you know, identify some very clear unmet needs statements. And with that, we've then got the wherewithal and the tools that we can start to identify funding streams, and with that be able to get the research really moving, because, you know, actually when you do have an orphan unmet need like this, there are ways of getting the work to move and move fast.
Yeah, and I think also, you know, absolutely, there's a kind of, you know, there's the broader you know, work that is being done and will continue to be done in relation to Parkinson's, but we do actually have to segment a bit as well, don't we, and look at particular groups, and that's the thing that you know, that we have not been so good at, and it's the thing that, of course, very often in relation to health policy more broadly, it's not that good. So you know, the experiences of young women with you know, endometriosis and so on, a kind of, you know, it's only really within the past year or so that has been given the sort of prominence that it is. And so similarly with Parkinson's, we need to be able to actually sort of segment, in a sense, because actually the sort of the implications and the needs of young women with Parkinson's are going to be particular to that group of people, just as for women generally with Parkinson's, there are going to be elements that will have a gender differentiation.
So I understand that there's some work underway through the World Parkinson Coalition to develop a survey of young onset people living with Parkinson's that will probably be live a bit later on this summer. Is that the plan?
That is the plan.
Fantastic. And I believe that you've got a wonderful subset of questions already included around women, young onset.
There's a subgroup within our working group for the WPC that will we're looking specifically at women's issues, so that will feed into the survey, as well as looking at the broader you know, whole gamut of issues that women face. It's also interesting that the government now want to look at this gap, this gender gap that they've identified between men and women. And I think for us to actually look, you know, be front centre with Parkinson's on this would be perfect, given that Boris is there with a mother who was diagnosed with young onset Parkinson's at 40. You know, what an opportunity. So I think if as a, you know, a group of interested people, we could look at that and encourage absolutely more power to that. We know that young onset women often get misdiagnosed, that it takes months, sometimes years, for a diagnosis to come through for young onset.
But it is an opportunity, absolutely, to in terms of the better understanding, women's health experiences, for the whole kind of Parkinson's community to be able to feed into that in relation to women and Parkinson's and young women in particular. We've got an opportunity here.
I think one of the biggest problems seems to be that you'll go and see your male GP, your male neurologist, and you won't want to, how are you? Fine, yes, I'm fine. I mean, my neurologist, he said to me not long ago, he said, why has no one else mentioned this to me when I'm saying that my drugs don't work on the time of the month and actually going through the menopause now, whole new circle of hell. It's not a jolly experience as far as Parkinson's meds are concerned, but it's an area that they're not aware of. They're not aware of it because we're too coy to have that conversation with male neurologists about it. In which case, that's look to yourselves, ladies with Parkinson's, we have to, this is already enough of a hidden condition without us hiding the facts from the people who are supposed to be helping us.
And actually, when you talk to any Parkinson's nurses, they do ask as routine, what is happening to people, and particularly young women with Parkinson's, because they're very well aware of the range of and diversity of the problems that people are facing. However, if there needs to be an educational tool for neurologists more broadly, then that's something that perhaps could come out of this survey as well, in terms of the need and creating the need, and then be delivered. Parkinson's Academy would, I'm sure, help with training, and Parkinson's UK with the Excellence Network is so well placed to see that change implemented in clinics across the UK.
Yeah, no, I think that's right, Helen. I mean, Parkinson's nurses are, great. That's sort of one thing, but the sort of the broader medical community, it is different, and actually right at that kind of gatekeeping point in terms of getting past your GP to get referred to a neurologist in the first place is taking too long. It's taking too many visits or phone calls, as it is just at the moment, to GPs for people to get that referral, and then sort of again just sort of fetching back on on what you were saying. There is also this kind of sort of broader issue, I think, for women generally in the healthcare system about just not being heard, not being listened to. We are, in a sense, we are the experts in our own health. We know if something is wrong. We may not be able to diagnose, but we know when something is wrong. And so, as part of this, call for evidence that the government's announced today, it also has to be about the health profession listening to what women are saying, what we're saying about what we feel is wrong.
Yeah.
Because we get brushed off.
Yeah, I think we're massively tuned in as women and as people with Parkinson's. We feel it intensely, whether it's the side effects of the drugs or motor symptoms or non-motor symptoms. It's Sarah, you find this surely that your Parkinson's is so it's big and loud, isn't it, when your body is reacting to drugs that work or drugs that don't work, not just the on and off. You can feel it taking effect.
Yeah, you can feel it going through your bones and your muscles and your everything. But I find medication, if it doesn't work, it's just horrendous. You can't do anything. That just holds you back all day. And I don't think neurologists forget that some days, They don't really sometimes live with Parkinson's, and they need to see it sometimes. We need to tell them more details about how we're feeling that day. Like Gaynor said, we all say, oh, we're fine, we play it down, especially women do. I think we try and we have it in us to carry on and just pick ourselves up and just carry on for the day. And I think, sometimes we've got to be a bit more honest and actually just say, I feel really terrible, I'm getting more symptoms and it's not working this week because of such and such. I agree, I think we've all got to be a bit more open.
I wonder if this is our opportunity, because the government, I think is it a 12-year, I can't get it. Let me try that again.
12 weeks.
I think it's a 12-week campaign that they've just launched, where they're trying to get these case studies in, they're trying to get these stories in, and maybe, you know, the Parkinson's charities, maybe we could work together and appeal for people to actually, even if it's done on a little video screen, on a little, you know, phone thing, just do a 3-minute video explaining this is how it affects me, this is how it impacts, to see Parkinson's in the reality as it is behind closed doors, because it is a hidden condition, but we're the ones hiding it a lot of the time.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah. I think
So
absolutely we need to encourage our you know, all of the sort of, you know, all of the groups and all of the people who we have contact with in our respective organisations to you know, to kind of really sort of put forward you know, their, you know, how this is affecting them.
So the consultation, I had a little look at that, and it's a very simplistic survey. There is an opportunity to add a separate consultation document, so add documentary evidence. And I think guiding people how to and what to submit would be very important, because the survey doesn't go far enough in terms of trying to draw out the inequalities. It sort of shuts you down. And it doesn't let you reply as an organisation. It is only as individuals on the link that I've seen so far. Again, Gaynor, a lot of this will come through from the survey. And I think the more detail in the survey about misdiagnoses as well, in terms of all young onset, you know, if you've had a misdiagnosis, what was it? What did people assume that you had or suggest that you might have had?
Yeah.
You know, and I think that would draw it out through that way. And I just feel that this is going to be such an important body of evidence that you're collecting here, and trying to find as many avenues as we can globally to promote that. And then also, you know, perhaps have, well, this day in a year's time as a key moment to be talking about women in Parkinson's, some of the issues that we would like to see addressed and how we're going to go about it, have a clear action plan for this time in a year.
Well, there has been some research that, you know, that does show that, you know, without doubt, that men are treated more seriously when they do see their doctor or their specialist than women. And I think there's been quite a bit of research in the sort of the field of, you know, sort of for the British Heart Foundation and in relation to heart attacks and so on and heart disease. And that men seem to be, you know, according to some of the research that's been carried out, taken more seriously and therefore diagnosed more quickly than women.
But we have to be fair to them, really, Shan. You know, they are the weaker sex.
I think it's very generous of you, Gaynor.
Well, you know.
It's a good day today.
Okay. Anything else? Should we leave it there and patch it together and see what we come up with?
Thank you, Gaynor.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Good
Thank
idea.
you, Gaynor.
Thank you, and lovely to see you all.
I just think it's been a nice chat, really.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Lovely to see you all. Take care,
Lovely to see you all, and lovely to meet you.
Thank you.
Gaynor and Sarah. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.